Welcome to the FMCG Podcast. Make sure you're following us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out. Enjoy the show.
Hi, my name's Rich and we're Consumer Hub and we help find the best people within the consumer industries, and this is the FMCG Podcast, and this is where we speak to the leaders today and hear their insights on leadership, culture and also their category expertise. Really excited to have Darren Morgan on the show today from Reckitt, and we're going to be talking about innovation, design and giving you a real kind of window on what's going on in Darren's world and also best practice in the industry. So thanks for joining us. Settle in and we'll get to it. But Darren, it's great to have you on the show. Really excited for this podcast. And I guess what I was really keen to do is just give the listeners a quick sort of, snapshot, headline in your own words on what your current role is and just a very quick run through your career and how you've ended up there at Reckitt in your current role. Can you just give everybody a quick sort of overview on you, Darren?
Yeah, no problem. Morning, Rich, and thanks for having me as well. I think I've always been in creative categories, let's say, in terms of the industry. I started off, I wanted to be a sculptor right at the beginning. So then I had a quiet conversation with my parents saying, you have to be 1% of the 1% to make a successful sculptor. But then, so my interest continued, and I found my way towards, let's say, Farnham, the Design Surrey Institute, after going through art college. And I did a BA honours in packaging design.
Cool.
From that, I won a student pack award within university, and then that got me into my first job, which was with home fragrance. So I was designing ranges for the likes of high street retailers such as Marks and Spencer's, Harrods, etc., etc. And then I moved into professional hair care. I found that was really interesting, and during that time, I was really intrigued in terms of how design and business needed to find the right harmony for each other as well, and they kind of each aside, it's the left brain and right brain, and how we kind of bring that together. And during that time, because of that kind of business side, which really intrigued me, I then moved to take a master's in design and brand strategy, just to understand how business allows creativity to grow and evolve design, but that I also believe that design providing a financial advantage, not just the emotional pull for everyday products. So where I am today, kind of ended up going through the likes of becoming a designer, creative director, design management, now a brand experience and strategy lead. What I do at Reckitt today, part of the hygiene business, is setting up the strategic roadmap on how to create much more deeper connections to the brands, not just the end result, which is the product, but actually the experience, the user experience. How do we actually understand the brand, where it can play and where it shouldn't play as well? So that long-term roadmap. But then also defining the expression of the brand through identifying its high-value touch points, where the brand can appear in people's lives. And how do we translate that personality, those values and behaviors through generating the brand's well-known distinctive assets?
Nice. That's really clear. Thank you. That's super interesting. So sculptor, you said, was the first idea that you'd had in terms of career.
Well, I wanted to be a sculptor, yeah. So it was something that I've always loved doing, and I think it was that 3D aspect rather than the traditional 2D that people go into.
That's super interesting. Yeah. I had a similar actually chat with one of my kids the other day that was sort of saying, look, I want to be a Lego designer. I was like, well, if you like design, it might be difficult to get into Lego, but there's actually a massive need for people in packaging at the moment. We were just looking at some of the packaging stuff we had at home, and they were like, how do people do this as a job? I was like, yeah, honestly, I actually recruit people like that, and they found it fascinating. That's really interesting. So do you still like keeping your hand in with sort of just being crafty and practical at home? You sort of do that to keep your left brain alive?
It is, it's true. I think you've kind of come to move away from the creative. You still need to have that creative kind of outlet, let's say. If anything, now I'd probably say I've moved into cooking. So nice. that becomes your creative expertise as well. So the kitchen has become my design studio these days.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. Sorry, just before we go on to the next question, signature dish. Go on. What's your best dish, Darren?
I have many that you'd have to ask my wife. Probably I'd go for a curry, many curries, and that taps into my love of travel and culture and visiting India as well. So yeah, that probably just be signature dishes as a curry.
Popular in our house. Yeah, definitely Friday curry nights. That's what it is for us. So no, thanks for talking us through your career and kind of top line there. It's really interesting. Just one thing I wanted to kind of dive into. You kind of gave us quite a good explanation there, but just to expand on it, so anybody listening can really kind of get their teeth into the concept. But what is design-driven innovation? Could you just kind of expand on that concept for us?
Yeah. So DDI, design-driven innovation. It's more of a much more different approach to a radical innovation as well. It's the search for meaning. How meaning shifts people's thinking and perspective. So it's all about generating much more breakthrough solutions and new business opportunities. But instead of if you have the classic matrix of existing technologies, what the market's required, design-driven innovation is a much more deeper, more emotional levels of understanding of what things really mean to people. So it's how they make people feel. So it's much more of a radical change from creating tangible or intangible things for people. It's what they fall in love with. Sometimes they notice before they can't do without. Let's say it's creating something much more emotional in terms of that pole.
That's interesting. Yeah. Could you give us an example of, like I say, a product that you think really kind of typifies that, maybe in the Reckitt's range, or just more broadly that you really rate and value as a DDI product?
I'd probably from a Reckitt point of view, from probably sort of outside, DDI's innovation is very hard to materialize because you're asking people to rely on the emotional pull that the product is, rather than standard kind of delivery. I think one within the world of design-driven innovation, probably the Nintendo Wii is a good example of what it does. It was the first to bring motion-centered controllers, but instead of competing with the likes of Sony and Xbox through the kind of powerful graphic performance, it actually went about to become much more simplified, but stimulating activities and physical entertainment in the real world. But they're not also just for the young. It actually invited the whole family to contribute, so much more of a community side of it. So that's usually a good a classic one in terms of the simplification. Another example from another category, we'll probably look at Whole Foods markets, where they changed shopping as a chore to actually an inspiring experience. Let's say shifting people's mindsets to more of a positive attitude, and then fundamentally creating more growth. The more people are much more happier in terms of the shopping experience, the more that they will buy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Let me just test this idea on you, because I'm interested to understand. So, the Dyson Airblade, the hand dryer. So my kids, I've got 6 kids, by the way. Number 7's on the way. So, pretty eccentric, but, kids are our thing. So, like taking the kids around, the eldest 3, when they were little, say Legoland, you go in, traditional, hand dryer. It's just this wall of air that drops down. It's really loud, and it drops onto their head. They're terrified of it. And the hand dryer used to be just this horrendous ordeal. You're busy, you're in a queue at, say, some play park, and there's no paper towels. You don't want to come out with that sticky dripping hands. So you try and just put your hands in the hair dryer, in the dryer, and it's just kicking off tantrums. When the Airblades came out, it went from being this ordeal to fun. So the kids now, they love the feeling of dropping their hands in the Airblade. It's like a zhoo sound. It's not coming over their head. It's not dropping down on top of them. And now the youngest 3, they've never had that experience of walking under a dryer in a play park, and it drops onto the head, and it's this terrifying ordeal. They're like, oh yeah, do it again. So now I've got the opposite problem. I've got to drag them off because there's a queue of the kids waiting to do it with their dads. That's one of these bits of innovation that always sticks in my mind, that transformed the experience of, it used to be this ordeal I would hate, like getting them in a busy queue, drying their hands, but now they love it. It's fun. And I don't know if you think that kind of ties into it, but they're like, oh yeah, again. It's kind of this kind of fun connotation to it.
There is a note in terms of, you said, we talk about meaning, emotions to actual products as well. It's the enjoyment, although it's a hand dryer, but the thinking about how it actually people feel about the experience is key in terms of how they're drying it, and also from the efficiencies point of view as well. It was, as you said, the old hair dryers just keep on going. They were, try to cater for all sizes, let's say, would be high up, etc., etc. But I think that's where you talk about, or we talk about, the benefits of having design. There's good design, but there's also great design, and it's the devil's in the detail, as we said. Always
interesting. Okay, no, thank you. I guess just moving on then, thinking sort of more specifically in your career, Darren. I think people will be interested, in understand what goes on in a design career. So, what's the most exciting brand design and innovation project that you've been involved in? Could you give us a bit of a walk through that?
I don't think. I've been fortunate to be, within my fields, I've been fortunate to be part of a few brand successes, let's say, that have made an impact to people's everyday life as well, and tapping into their rituals and their behaviours. As I always say, it's when I think the key note of when you delivered something is when a product or a service isn't there. That you've done something wrong. It's when people miss out on actually not utilising that product. It's actually it's part of their behaviour, let's say, in terms of that. So you've done something right when people regret when it's not there anyway. I think there's some examples that I look back, was the launch of during the hair care industry, the launch of Tresemme. That I was part of. It was discovering that new white space within the hair care category. It was leaning into its professional hair salon heritage, which people wanted to be part of, and utilising that styling, that design language, the tone of voice, but then being much more affordable from the mass market. So it really disrupted the mass aisle, let's say, in terms of shampoo and conditioner styling products. It leaned much more in terms of its legacy and its heritage, but also it's not just about the output or the product or service. I'm also excited about the process, the strategy, and the collaboration as well. Different ways of working, and the design, research, and the planning. Having one team which is generally aligned on the vision of what we're trying to achieve, can also become, non-designers can become creative in how we get there as well. So the likes of legal, regulatory, planning, manufacturing, look at things very differently. And this was a couple of examples was when the Nurofen new identity was just, how do we reassert the brand's leadership through elevating its existing distinctive assets? So how do we increase the prominence and enhance it? And it was delivered through actually removing and simplifying the packaging as well. It's it returned to that system one thinking to give space to that as well. Also, I worked Scholl. How do you make people think more about their feet? It's the last thing people do. It's they need attending, but actually looking at how do you taking insights from Eastern cultures and translate them to solutions for a Western world. And we created an electrical foot file that Cher had done, and actually embodying a design language. It's a revolutionary device for the market, and it delivered and meeting over and above consumers' expectations. It was quick. It met that speed. A worry-free solution.
Right. That's really interesting. No, thank you for those two examples. Just dipping onto that second one you mentioned, which was Tresemme. So you had finance and legal involved as well in that design process, did you?
Yeah, well, I think that it's always depending on the amount when people are involved in projects. I think it's fundamental in terms of the collaboration right at the outset. In terms of it's, as we said earlier, it's the detail that it's trying to understand the trademarks, where the regulatory aspects of where you can move to, what's the manufacturing, the supply. It's understanding each of those, and we talk about the end-to-end journey. It's not just the design and where you hand over. I think where design and where we are at Reckitt if anything, we're the golden thread that runs through the whole process. We are there at the beginning of the innovation, and we're also there at the implementation in terms of ensuring that it's ready and fit for purpose at launch.
Yeah, because I was going to say, who, if design and innovation can be owned by somebody, like who should really own the process?
I don't think it from my personal point of view, I don't think it can be owned by one. It also depends on the objective of the innovation as well. What is the business wanting to achieve? Where I think for me, having a group of small like-minded people who bring different expertise and challenge each other, have that fresh eyes and new perspectives, understanding that, as I mentioned, and understanding that vision of what we want to do and where we want to go. I think that's, for me, that's the key fundamental as well. It's a combination of multiple brains.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah, I leads into my next question. I'm just wondering, you kind of alluded to it there, but what does it take to deliver truly great innovation in design then?
Belief, commitment, trust from the business as well. Having true great design and innovation is you're moving away from something that's day to day, and having the business believe in that and have the business commit to it from a financial point of view as well as resources is key. That's I would probably say 3: commitment, belief, trust.
Yeah. It's an interesting point you make about coming away from the day-to-day of the business. I suppose you've almost got to get back away from the coalface, haven't you, to kind of reassess, kind of wide angle where the opportunity is. Just you kind of giving some great examples there of that, just paint a picture of what it's like to be in that world of design. But could you sort of give us a bit of a granular run through on what a good A-star design process might look like from beginning to end in terms of the stage gates? It'd be really interesting for people to kind of get the detail on that.
I think the ones that spring to mind from a design process is the non-linear process, which is the design thinking. It's that kind of emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, test, repeat. I'm a big fan of the double diamond, which is the design council in terms of how you iterate designs, then you refocus, and then you open up again in terms of the opportunities. But also, I think it depends on what you want to achieve. Whether it's what type of innovation is it? Is it the incremental? Is it the architectural innovation, tapping into expanding new existing technologies into a new market? But then is it the disruptive? Is it the radical? Been talking quite frequently about leapfrog innovation as well. Is actually how do you jump to get ahead of your competitors in a completely revolutionary way?
Interesting. Yeah. How long does it typically take to get from an idea start at the funnel through to shelf?
I think from a completely new innovation, we would probably say it's something to about 18 to 24 months. It depends if it's it depends if it's a new formulation, if it needs to go through regulatory, if we need to speak to the FDA, if it's a gadget, then obviously there's manufacturing, there's a lot more home usage tests, etc. So that's, and then also for me, it's how you ensure that your sales teams and your retail partners are ready for that launch as well. So it's providing that time for them, and I think that's kind of the fundamentals. When it steps outside the design, let's say, sphere, it's the other teams and the other collaborators that we need to have on board to ensure there's that success. But then also, if it's a simple evolution of an existing product, it could be a minor change, to drive greater impact. As we said, a reduction of claims on a pack to tell a better core story might be all that's needed. So that could be then within 6 months as well. I think from a corporation, we need time to actually ensure that the product is ready, fit for purpose, because you drive in scale.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah. So what do Reckitt do that makes their sort of innovation design process so renowned? Because they are, they've got a phenomenal rep in that space, and obviously every year the range, brings out some exciting things. What do you think makes it sort of just so strong?
I think, do you know what? I think I wouldn't say it's a renowned or unique per se, but we know that we have to develop superior solutions to deliver against people's needs. I think that, and how we go about that, in terms of our attitude, our commitment, as we said, and also the alternative approaches as well. That nothing is a bad idea. And I think where we're at in terms of our peers, in terms of Procter and Gamble or Unilever, they always have a lot more resources, let's say, from ours. So we have to think a little bit differently, think a little bit cleverer in terms of what can and can't be done. So you're trying to simplify the key jobs to be done, let's say, through the process. And I think we always have that entrepreneurial spirit, let's say, within Reckitt.
A combination of space to ideate and simplicity.
Yes, indeed. But you have to have, the biggest challenge that we see. You have to give people time to breathe, to think, to pollinate.
Right, that's a great point. Yeah, really like that. They're very, very different as well to I just said prevailing kind of culture in where it's busy all the time. So it must take a lot of strength of character as a company culturally to say, no, we are ring fencing this ability to breathe within design.
Exactly, and I think that's it's a fundamental point that where design experience, we work with a lot more external partners within our design world and our design industry, and it's given them the time to think. That's what you pay them for, and that's what provides great design.
Great. And just kind of segueing into packaging, you kind of touched on it earlier, but packaging is a conversation that's increasingly important with every single client we work with. The number of packaging roles that we've recruited in the last 3 years is probably expanded 400%. It's like every year we get more and more in that space. It feels like everybody is looking at kind of how they can address a lot of different issues through packaging. Now, how important do you think packaging is now in that sort of wider product and innovation design process and conversation?
Packaging has, for a long time, packaging has been fundamental, a key part of the consumer journey. It's what we call it the second moment of truth through the consumer journey, when the consumer finally interacts with the physical embodiment of the brand. So whether it's through the primary pack or it's a journey of unpacking to the product or device, it's how you actually tap into that system one thinking. When people are on autopilot in terms of shopping, we talk about our products 24 hours a day, but from a consumer point of view, it's under 2 seconds in terms of decisions made. So what are the key attributes? I was always told right at the beginning of my role, when I tapped into packaging design is your longest and most visible piece of advertising, but always the least spent on.
That's a really great point. Interestingly, I know they've been absorbed into another business now, but one of the brands that really stands in my mind in the last 10 years as having a great disruptive impact was Tyrrell's Crisps. They talked a lot about pack marketing, and for them it was basically as a challenger brand looking to disrupt that kind of fixture. That's when share bags were coming in and their packaging, the colours and the vintage photos, it was completely different to anything else anyone had done at that moment. For them it was all about, the packaging really was the number one brand asset that they had that would, just punch above its weight in store. And, that would be something that would be talked about when you spoke to people at Tyrrell's. And I remember thinking, I think I was like probably 4 years into recruitment or something when I really noticed this conversation going. It made me start to take a note whenever I was in the store what challenger brands were doing with their packaging. That's really interesting.
It's funny. I was going to say with Tyrrell's and let's say the era of the craft brand has come about. And think, as you said, the challenger brands tap into their storytelling and the background, and that's what people are buying. That the emotional pull to that. When you look at it, the likes of the bigger mass brands, it's almost just an automatic. I choose the flavor, but you tap into the smaller brands, which adds a little bit more something. You have that kind of relationship with the brand as well, which I think is fundamental. And I think that's where challenger brands are more confident in their branding, in their design. They realise that the power of design.
There's a Holland Woodhouse up there, Badger Brewery. Absolutely love their beers. I've always drunk them since I was a student. Got memories of drinking them in the West Country when I was an archaeology student, and then recruited a lot from them now, which is a bit of a dream for me. And they've just kind of repackaged and redesigned, and it's great. Like, it's modernised the feel of the product, but it hasn't lost the story. It hasn't lost that kind of connection to the woods and the fields. It's just good. Love it.
Yeah, the brewing category is a great example of craft brands coming through and providing opportunities for small little startups to actually create something really unique.
Yeah. And just kind of making it personal then, Darren. Just give us a bit of a top line on what do you love about your job and what do you love about your job within Reckitt as well and the culture there.
I think for me, from a design perspective, if we strip back what design means, it's about solving people's problems. It's providing, for me, you get up in the morning and you're providing better solutions for the everyday, but also in mind from a society as a whole. I think that's the big thing that we need to design has a special opportunity to do that. You're changing people's behaviours for the better. It's something that's key for us as well. From a Reckitt's perspective, it's a very work hard, play hard environment, which we love. I talked about that kind of spirit that we have. Always open to new ideas and solutions. There's always time to, whether it's in a formal meeting or a corridor conversation, to start things off, which is usually the best time. And I think that's why it's always encouraged that we should be, we talk about work from home, etc., etc. I think there's a right balance of actually we talk about designers thrive on having that face-to-face conversations with people, whether it's consumers or whether it's just anybody in the work. I think we bounce ideas off each other from that point of view. And I think I'm part of a great brand experience team. We are committed to driving or providing better solutions or better ideas. I think that's what keeps us at Reckitt as well. It's a great bunch of people with a lot of skills and expertise within Reckitt. Nice. That it's great to be there.
Brilliant. No, that's really good to hear. Yeah. What do you think it takes to win in design, commercially in the market, and I guess just tagged onto that as well, like where's the future in terms of where the wins are going to be in design?
I think we said from a futures perspective, we definitely we have an opportunity, and I think design minded people need to lean in more on the environmental sphere. I think how we approach that as well, the economic pressures, the cost of living, how do we shift from being a commodity to being a lifestyle product or a lifestyle solution, let's say. I think that's key for us as well, that more and more the brands are reducing in terms of what time. More and more brands are being utilized for more opportunities within their areas. So what design is, there's passion, we have empathy, storytelling is the key thing, which we talked about as well, in terms of what it takes to what the skills that we need. So that's
cool. That's really interesting. Yeah. Just think about anybody listening that's in design, innovation, brand, and they're looking to move into innovation. What would you say is some of the common improvements people can make to their mindset, and then within that kind of, I'm thinking of kind of say 3 topics, and you've got mindset, approach, and systems. That's typically what makes somebody good at their job. Can you just walk us through what some of the, I guess, low-hanging fruit that people could tweak in those buckets that maybe you see are commonly overlooked or maybe not dug into enough?
I think there is, from a design perspective, all designers, whether it's management or creativity, needs to broaden their spectrum in terms of understanding the business and its language. Design is still the small fish, you would argue, within the scope of R&D, research, marketing. But then the irony is that they all need great design, let's say, to progress. So design education is key within a business as well. You need to, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist from my point of view. You need to provide confidence that the solutions can thrive within the business, and those ideas can grow. And then from a systems perspective, the tools, there are a number of tools, but they need to be used correctly. And I think that comes in from the education side of it, and where there's a lot of design education that we do within Reckitt, from the tools they have, from the design brief to the consumer journey maps, the UX studies to budgeting as well, which is fundamental as well to managing that. So, understanding how the P&L works, there's a lot of people don't understand, but I always believe design needs to deliver a financial goal. There needs to be an ROI from my perspective.
That's super interesting. Yeah. That's I guess it justifies the space the business is giving you, doesn't it? Making sure that you're always on the front foot with leading from an understanding of the business, an ability to measure the impact of the design, and then also making sure that your tools and systems are grounded in overall delivering for like commercial business. It stops it being this side project, doesn't it, and makes it kind of integrate into the whole, even if it is a little bit to one side with its own kind of space to breathe.
Yeah, we have within our KPIs within design, without going into so much detail, there are 3 KPIs of buy me, see me, understand me. So, what is your purchase intent? What is the findability? Do you understand who I am? What I'm trying to convey? And fundamentally, as you said, we sit in a world of packaging on shelf, and it's how do we actually disrupt, and how do we actually communicate to actually start to create that relationship with the consumer.
Great. And I guess closing advice from you then, Darren. So, that's really useful advice. Thank you. But what character attributes do you think someone needs to develop to lead in your space?
A thick skin. You're always trying to persuade people, and that will always help. But it's the ability to hack into human empathy and connection. I always say that's kind of, it's the once we have that hook in terms of the emotional connection that we can create with people, the financials will come anyway. I think that's what rather than the other way around. But I think for me, if we are trying to create communities that will move in the right direction, and I think always remember, I think President Truman, there was a quote that he said, which was, "It's amazing what small group of people can achieve, providing no one person gets the credit." And I think designers are very much that way. They're not looking for that kind of starlight, kind of stardom. Let's say it's great designers are always looking to actually just improve society, improve well-being for people. I think that's where they get their achievement as well.
That's nice. Kind of, make sure that you limit your ego to some extent. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, as well as having a thick skin, which is, I guess, is good rules for living, to be fair. What advice would you have to somebody looking to start a career in innovation and design, or maybe they're early mid in their career and they're thinking, actually, I could transition, across into the design vertical? What would your advice be to somebody in that situation, considering it as a relative outsider?
I think from an outside perspective, trust the process. Always believe in start slow, finish fast, rather than the other way around. I think collate all the information that you have. so you know that once you start moving, you're going in the right direction, and there is that kind of a mentality that you will finish fast as well. But that's the challenge of do not start running before you don't know where you're going to. So I think that's one of the things. But I think for me, designers are always sponges. Do you know what I mean? We absorb all that information. We need to know a bit of everything to help us gain or provide the right solutions. So we need to become the best listening device ever.
Great.
Take it professionally. Don't take it personally. I think that's a key thing for designers who wear our hearts on our sleeves. It's something that we need to train ourselves. Definitely, it's a learning curve. But at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver on business success and business growth. And then from that, you will always remember you'll never please everyone. Keeping everyone happy is impossible. So I think be one-minded and understand in terms of what your beliefs are as well.
Nice, yeah, thanks. That's really really great advice, Darren. Any podcasts, books, resources that you'd call out to someone that's looking to move into branding design, or maybe just looking to up their game that you've really benefited from that you'd call out?
I think a good books probably. There's a book called Design Driven Innovation by Roberto Berganti is a very good one. It gives a lot of good case studies in terms of the different approach. There is another one called X, The Experience, When Business Meets Design, by Brian Solis. And always a good one. One I always go back to is Love Marks by Kevin Roberts. Listening, I'm a big fan of TED Talks because I think that it's a real great source of inspiration from all leaders in their fields. And I think as we always, tapping into new fields outside your categories are always beneficial.
Yeah, I love that kind of cross-pollination piece.
Absolutely.
I find the same in recruitment actually in sales. It's a bit corny and cheesy, I know, but have you read Sun Tzu's Art of War? I know it's a bit of a cliche, but genuinely, like some of the stuff in that you're reading it, you're like, this is absolutely golden for running a sales campaign or pulling together some marketing. I like reading like a lot of old stuff, like kind of books of proverbs, just from different cultures. You think some of this kind of advice on how humans work and how, like per your point actually, how often the emotion is the trigger in success and how you engage with a particular situation. It's been distilled and people knew it 600 years ago as well. I found that endlessly interesting how you can kind of like take that. But it's great as well when if you're resting, relaxing, you want to come away from the job, it's to have something that sort of recharges you for the job, kind of reading something from a different kind of space, vertical, industry, time, and then still getting something from it you can apply. It's always a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I always utilize the one 1,000 cuts leads to death, and we come from a design perspective in terms of we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that, we can cut this away, and I think it's let's get there, let's provide the right product first, what's the right solution, and then we can look at the efficiencies and what we can deliver.
Nice, yeah, that's great. Well, look, thanks, Darren. That's honestly been fascinating. Really, really, I've enjoyed our time together today. I want to make sure that anyone listening today that's enjoyed what you've heard from Darren. Just encourage you to reach out. Thank Darren for his time. People come on this show because they want to invest in careers, they want to invest in the industry. It's their way of giving back. It's our way of giving back. So please do follow Darren's work. Where can people find you and follow you, Darren?
I'm always pushing on LinkedIn, which is always the best spot as well. That would probably be the main focus. I'm around on social channels as well, but yeah, LinkedIn will be the big one.
Brilliant. That's great. Yeah. Any final closing remarks, Darren, or have you given us all the good stuff?
I don't know. I think final advice from design perspective: don't fear failure. It's part of the learning process. I was always told that fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. So don't worry about it. As we talked about earlier, make sure we become environmentally focused. Social contribution, let's say, is fundamental. Protect your design teams, give them the space to pollinate the ideas, and whatever the innovation is, it's not found in the office. So you need to get out there.
Love it. That's a great one. Well, thanks again. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please do like this podcast wherever you're watching it. If it's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, please do subscribe. Share it with your pals in the office. Let us know what topics you'd like covered. Let us know what you'd like to see in terms of future content, guests, any ideas. We're always up for making this podcast all about you. And again, thank you, Darren, for your time. Take care. See you all soon.